Here we are. Welcome again to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. Before we start today, on January 12, we learned of the death of Sheldon Adelson, a giant in the world of hotels and gaming. His support of conservative candidates and causes are legend. My condolences go out to the love of his life, Dr. Miriam Adelson. I have to just tell you, I met Mr. Adelson a couple of times over the years, and we sat at the same table for a couple of luncheons and things, and he's a gentleman and was just a wonderful guy. And when he said, "Pass the bread," it got passed. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time, and our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area. It's on your screen now. If you have questions or comments, send an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my office recorder. That is 702-257-1060. Please leave contact information if you would like a call back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by most media. I always select a few for my listeners' education. Most are good shooting, some are questionable, some are just wrong, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one when out in public. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local, gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Stories are often paraphrased by me for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into standard American English. And incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals are deleted. The identification of the cops, the lawyers, and media are generally used. You can check out our disclaimer at the end of the show for some important information about that and how I occasionally rewrite things slightly. First up, there's a website out there, joebiden.com, which has posted the president-elect's plan for firearm safety. This is greatly abbreviated due to airtime limits. When he made a statement, "I'm going to do this," and then his next two or three statements were why he was going to do it. So I generally left out the why part here, because what's of interest to gun owners is, of course, what he's planning to do, not his reasoning for it. Anyway, first up was to hold gun manufacturers accountable. In 2005, then Senator Biden voted against the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Firearms Act, but the gun manufacturers successfully lobbied Congress to secure its passage. This law protects manufacturers from being held civilly liable for misuse of their products. President Biden will prioritize repealing that protection. Next, he said he wanted to ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Joe Biden will enact legislation to once again ban assault weapons. While working to pass this legislation, Biden will also use his executive authority to ban importation of assault weapons. To regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the National Firearms Act. Currently, the National Firearms Act requires individuals possessing machine guns, silencers, short-barreled rifles, etc., to undergo a background check and register those weapons with the BATF. As president, Biden will pursue legislation to regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the National Firearms Act, meaning your AR-15s and so forth. The buyback of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines already in our communities. Biden will also institute a program to buy back weapons of war currently on our streets. This will give individuals who now possess assault weapons or high-capacity magazines two options: sell the weapons to the government or register them under the National Firearms Act. Reduce the stockpiling of weapons. In order to reduce the stockpiling of firearms, Biden supports legislation restricting the number of firearms an individual may purchase to one per month. The fine print on that said if you don't, you can't save up 3 months, you don't buy one, then you can buy 3 that month. It's one every 30 days. If you don't exercise your option to buy one, you lost the ability to buy that gun. He pledges to keep guns out of dangerous hands. The federal background check system, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, is only effective when it's used. Biden will enact universal background check legislation and close other loopholes that allow people who should be prohibited from purchasing firearms. Require background checks for all gun sales. An estimated 1 in 5 firearms are sold or transferred without a background check. That's his number. Biden will enact universal check legislation requiring background checks for all gun sales with very limited exceptions. This will close the gun show and online sales loophole. Biden says he will reinstate the Obama-Biden policy of keeping guns out of the hands of certain people unable to manage their affairs for mental reasons. Individuals who are prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms because of being adjudicated by the Social Security Administration as unable to manage their affairs for mental reasons. So if you can't balance your checkbook, you're not allowed to have a firearm. President Biden will enact legislation to put this into law. To close the hate crime loophole. I bet you've never heard of that one. Biden will enact legislation prohibiting an individual who has been convicted of a misdemeanor because of hate or bias in its commission from purchasing or possessing a firearm. So if you have a misdemeanor because you yelled at your neighbor and it had anything to do with racial bias, you can't have guns anymore. To close the Charleston loophole. This allows people to complete a firearm purchase if their background check is not completed within 3 business days. Biden supports the proposal to extend the time from 3 to 10 business days. There's a lot more details on that one also in his blog. And the online sale of firearms and ammunition. Biden will enact legislation to prohibit all online sales of firearms, ammunition, kits, and gun parts. Kits, I'm presuming, means parts kits in his statement there. Biden also will create a program to ensure individuals who become prohibited from possessing firearms relinquish their weapons. President Biden will direct the FBI and ATF to outline a model relinquishment process and provide technical and financial assistance to state and local governments to establish effective relinquishment process on their own. He goes on that the California model is what he's looking for, and generally viewers are familiar with that. Incentivize state extreme risk laws. These are also called red flag laws that enable family members or police to temporarily remove an individual's access to firearms when that individual poses a danger to themselves or others. Biden will incentivize the adoption of these laws by giving states funds to implement them. give states incentive to set up gun licensing programs. Biden will enact legislation to give states and local government grants to require individuals to obtain a license prior to purchasing a gun. He also pledges to adequately fund the background check system. President Obama and Vice President Biden expanded incentives for states to submit records of prohibited persons into the background check system. President Biden will continue to prioritize that funding and ensure the FBI is adequately funded to accurately and effectively handle the NICS system. In addition, President Biden will establish a new task force on online harassment and abuse to focus on the connection between mass shootings, online harassment, extremism, and violence against women. As president, Joe Biden will convene a national task force with federal agencies, state leaders, advocates, law enforcement, and technology experts to study the rampant online sexual harassment, stalking, and threats, including revenge porn and deep fakes, whatever that is, and the connection between this harassment, mass shootings, extremism, and violence against women. He will put America on a path to ensuring that 1,000 firearms sold in America. Oh, I'm sorry. This is 100%. The monitor goofs up on sometimes when there's apostrophes and things. He will put America on a path to ensuring that 100% of firearms sold in America are smart guns. Today, we have the technology to allow only authorized users to fire a gun. Biden believes we should work to eventually require that 100%, there it is, require that 100% of firearms sold in the U.S. are smart guns. There's so much more to that. Hold adults accountable for giving minors access to firearms. Biden supports legislation holding adults criminally and civilly liable for directly or negligently giving a minor access to a firearm, regardless of whether the minor actually gains possession of the firearm or not. So if you have a loose gun in your house and a kid walks in the door, you're going to jail. Require gun owners to safely store their weapons. Biden will pass legislation requiring firearm owners store weapons safely in their home. He also has pledged to prioritize prosecution of straw purchasers. Straw purchasers buy a firearm on behalf of another individual who cannot possess a firearm or cannot pass a background check. Biden will end these loopholes by enacting a law to make all straw purchases a serious federal crime and ensure the U.S. Justice Department will prioritize their prosecution. He pledges that people make a law that notify law enforcement when potential firearm purchaser fails a background check. As president, Biden will direct the FBI to set up a process to ensure timely notification of denials to state and local law enforcement, and he'll support legislation to codify this process. He will require firearms owners to report if their weapon is lost or stolen. Responsible gun owners have a responsibility to inform law enforcement if their weapon is lost or stolen. Biden will enact legislation to make this the law of the land. There's more. To stop ghost guns. Biden will stop the proliferation of these so-called ghost guns by passing legislation requiring that all purchasers of gun kits or 3D printing codes pass a federal background check. Reform, fund, and empower the U.S. Justice Department to enforce our gun laws. Biden will direct his Attorney General to deliver to him within his first 100 days a set of recommendations for restructuring ATF and related Justice Department agencies to most effectively enforce our gun laws. He also vows to prohibit the use of federal funds to arm or train educators to discharge firearms. We should be passing rational gun laws, not requiring educators who already have too much on their plates to also protect the safety of students. Biden supports barring states from using federal dollars to arm or train educators to discharge firearms. Comments here. This is a really abbreviated version. The entire document would take more airtime than I have in several shows. I have paraphrased in quite a bit, trying to do my best not to change the meaning. If listeners go to joebiden.com/firearmssafety, that's the website, joebiden.com/firearmssafety, you will find the original. It appears that all firearms owners and users are in for a bumpy ride in the next 2 years. I say 2 years because I believe the House of Representatives will flip back to a more pro-gun mix from both sides. I'll lay out my case for that next week, if I'm still on the air after this tirade about what Mr. Biden's going to do to the gun industry. We're going to take a break now for a commercial on my latest book on Amazon Kindle. Amazon Kindle. I can remember that. So I'll be right back in about 2 minutes while this runs with the rest of our show. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. I am back. There's the book, available on Amazon Kindle, and they will send hard copies also. We've got a few retailers in the Las Vegas area that are carrying this book also. I've got a few dozen hard copies left, which I'm kind of going to save for gifts for people. Okay, here we go again. WKEF Virtual Channel 22, it's an ABC affiliate, a journalist named Joshua Richardson, reported January 5, 2021 in Dayton, Ohio. Officers say that about 8:15 in the morning, a resident confronted a woman who was reportedly damaging his 2005 Dodge Magnum with a golf club. The resident told officers that she threatened to shoot him, so he returned back to his Germantown Street apartment out of concern that she had a weapon. The 30-year-old woman followed the resident into the building, still carrying the golf club, and she began striking his door with the golf club. The resident told police he thought he had heard a gunshot, at which time he shot through the door, striking the attacker. He then called police to report the incident. The 30-year-old woman has been charged with aggravated menacing and criminal damaging. The man was interviewed and released. The investigation is ongoing, according to the police officers making the report. Comments here, certainly an attack with a golf club puts the intended victim in danger of serious bodily injury and perhaps even death. The banging on the door with a golf club could sound like a gunshot. Shooting through the door, presumably without a clear view of the area on the other side, is a terrible decision. The continuing investigation will clear this up rather quickly. The case will hinge on the visibility through the door. If the shooter should retain a lawyer now, as this could be a negligent shooting. The seriousness of the woman's injury is not revealed in the reports. So we don't know how badly she was hurt by the shots. But again, that is going to go back simply, can you see through the door or not? If you couldn't see through the door, firing through it is ridiculous, is the word I guess I'm trying to find. Story number 3. The Register Mail, a journalist named Matt Koester, reports in Galesburg, Illinois, a call a few minutes after 10 in the evening, local police responded to the Guns and Ammo gun shop on South Henderson Street on Wednesday in response to a disturbance there involving gunshots. When officers arrived, they determined that several suspects had broken into the business. Police Chief Russ Idle said they used a large rock or a cinder block to break in, and the investigation had shown there were 4 or 5 individuals attempting the burglary. The owner of the business was inside during the break-in, and a preliminary investigation indicated that the business owner fired 4 to 5 shots at the suspects after they entered his gun shop. Police say that shortly after that, a vehicle pulled up to the emergency room at Cottage Hospital. A 17-year-old male was dropped off at the front door with a gunshot wound, and others in the vehicle immediately drove away. They dropped him off. That was nice. Hospital staff provided medical aid to the teen, but he died from his wounds. A Peoria man, 18 years of age, is in custody. He is being held on burglary and felony murder charges connected to the case. He is not believed to be the actual shooter, but rather an accomplice. The Galesburg police determined the vehicle used for the burglary belonged to the 18-year-old. He and his vehicle were located in Peoria and brought back to Galesburg, where he was arrested and charged with burglary and felony murder. The latter charge doesn't accuse him in the killing itself. Police Chief Russ Idle said, under Illinois law, a person who commits a felony offense and during the commission of that offense, someone dies, that person is held responsible for the death. This is called felony murder. The 18-year-old is in the Knox County Jail awaiting a court appearance. Police say the investigation is ongoing. The name of the store owner who fired the shots is not being released. Comments here, the felony murder rule appears here again. If you shot an attacker under reasonable circumstances and he is killed, his accomplices are charged with murder in most states. This is often used by prosecutors to encourage surviving perps to reveal their associates in plea agreements. So we're going to hold right there for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. And we are back. Fourth story. Fox TV 29 reported January 7, 2021, in Houston, Texas, a car burglar was shot after a homeowner caught him in the act late Wednesday night. The shooting happened around 9 in the evening at a home on Theta Street. And Marlene Street in southeast Houston. Police say the homeowner heard a noise in his driveway, looked out and saw a male subject breaking into his car. The homeowner grabbed his gun and confronted the guy. At some point, the homeowner shot the car burglar, who was pronounced dead at the scene. The homeowner called police and is cooperating with investigators. There is no information on if the homeowner will face any charges. Comments here. This is another Texas case where the statutes and case law provide using deadly force to stop fleeing criminals and use it to recover stolen property. Don't try this at home unless your home is in the Lone Star State. Always got to caution, Texas has some great laws about firing at criminals, but they only apply in Texas, nowhere else so far. Story number 5. KOMO-TV Virtual Channel 4 ABC reports January 7, 2021, in Seattle, Washington. Seattle police responded to a disturbance at a home in the 9,000 block of 3rd Avenue Southwest near 11 in the evening on Wednesday. When officers arrived, they found a man with a gunshot wound to his hand. The couple told police that they had been in an argument with a male acquaintance in their home. The acquaintance then pepper sprayed the resident couple. The woman fired what she called a warning shot, which hit her husband in the hand. The couple then chased the man out of the home, and the wife fired 3 additional rounds. Officers say the woman was arrested for unlawful discharge of a firearm and assault. Police are investigating the second man involved in the case. Comments here, you notice this is way different from the case we just did in Texas. Same circumstances, but the other party got arrested. First off, the background when you fire matters. The most difficult thing in using firearms in self-defense is clearing the background. Your focus will naturally be on the threat in front of you. I had this same experience years ago when a mentally ill man was approaching me with a machete. Long involved story, but end up with a guy walking toward me on the sidewalk with a machete in his hand. When he finally decided to drop the machete, I relaxed and felt the hammer of my SIG 220 drop into its half-cock notch. The background behind this subject was a few hundred tourists on Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas. Despite all my training and experience, I never checked the background. I locked in on the threat. It's an easy thing to do. Look at the background. And in that case, warnings really helped. I finally got through to him, and he put the machete down. Story number 6. Tulsa World, a journalist named Sheila Stogsdill reports January 8, 2021 in Miami, Oklahoma, not the one in Florida. A burglary in progress was reported in the 900 block of B Street Northwest in Miami just after midnight. Miami Police Chief Thomas Anderson said a 911 caller told police he was in his living room when the man began banging on his back door. He said he armed himself with a shotgun after he heard someone climb through the window of a back bedroom. He told police he fired once at the man, later identified as a 30-year-old from Miami, after the intruder approached the resident. This is according to Chief Anderson. The would-be intruder was taken to Miami Integris Hospital where he was pronounced dead. The 30-year-old suspect had been released from the Ottawa County Jail on Tuesday on charges of knowingly receiving or concealing stolen property and false declaration of ownership in pawn, according to court records. In addition, court records show 12 warrants had been issued for him in Ottawa County in cases alleging child abuse, violating a protective order, domestic assault and battery, burglary of an automobile, larceny, drug violations, concealing stolen property, and threatening acts of violence. Miami Police Chief Thomas Anderson said no charges are being sought against the resident. This is a little dissertation on career criminals like this guy. A career criminal finally meets his final victim. When criminals commit their first crime, they are rarely caught. That emboldens them to commit more. I'd estimate, just on my experience and not anybody's statistic, it takes about 10 crimes before they're caught. Plea bargains and probation usually follow that. They continue because there really was no penalty. After this cycle repeats again, they finally get prison time. When they get out, it's really hard to find legitimate work with their record, so they continue on their criminal path. Sooner or later, they meet their final victim, a cop or an armed citizen who ends their career with fatal gunfire. We're going to break here very briefly for a few more commercials. I'll be right back. You ain't got time to go get a cup of coffee. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. Just a couple more stories. We're running over quite a bit, and the people here at the studio are going to attempt to put these shows directly on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, so you don't have to link it and find it. So that may help with a lot of things we're trying to put together. Look forward to that. This seventh story, because we're well past our 30 minutes, WNCN CBS 17 reports January 9, 2021 in Durham, North Carolina. The Durham police report an incident around 6 in the evening in the 3600 block of North Duke Street. According to police, a 27-year-old from Charleston tried robbing a man at gunpoint, and the intended victim then shot him. Yay. The police statement on Twitter said the initial report indicates the victim shot in self-defense when a suspect attempted to rob him. This happened at the North Duke Crossing Shopping Center. The suspect was taken to a nearby hospital but later died. A witness at the shopping at a beauty supply store when she heard gunfire. When she went outside, she saw a man laying on the ground. She told media, "It's heartbreaking just to know what's going on in society now. Like every time you turn around, something is going on. You hear it on the news all the time, and there's just, now to be experiencing it, it's a whole different feeling." No charges have been filed at this time, and the case remains under investigation. Anyone with information is asked to call Investigator Armstrong at 919-560-4440, extension 29325. Hope you got that. Or you can call Crime Stoppers at 919-683-1200. Crime Stoppers pays cash rewards for information leading to arrests in felony cases, and callers never have to identify themselves, which is generally helpful sometimes. My comments here are short. Another career criminal meets his final victim. Story number 8. The Victorville Daily Press, a journalist named Matthew Cabe, reports January 6, 2021 in Barstow, California, a place I've actually been to many times. A shooting occurred Wednesday afternoon in the SoCal Smoke Shop located at 1251 East Main Street. Officers were dispatched to the business just after 2:30 in the afternoon after receiving a report of a person shot during a robbery. At the scene, they found the alleged robber unresponsive, not breathing, and suffering multiple gunshot wounds. Responding officers administered CPR. Paramedics from the Barstow Fire Protection District continued life-saving events once they arrived. Despite all their efforts, the man was pronounced dead at the scene. Barstow police detectives learned through an investigation that the employee retrieved a handgun and shot the unidentified man as he was robbing the business. Reports say the robber pointed a handgun at the store employee while demanding money and property. Detectives interviewed multiple witnesses, reviewed surveillance video, and processed the scene as part of their investigation. A deputy coroner from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department Coroner's Division, long title, and a deputy district attorney from the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office also responded to the scene and assisted Barstow police with the ensuing investigation. The investigation is ongoing, and anyone with information is asked to contact Detective Tom Lewis at 760-255-5187. Anyone with information can anonymously call the We Tip hotline. That one is 1-800-782-7463. Comments. Yet another career criminal meets his final victim. Are you seeing a pattern here? That they just keep doing it till somebody puts them down. You can check out my recent shows at firedupwithbobirwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. When watching any media, just click on subscribe and new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms, or even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their associated outdoor facility. They provide transportation. Contact info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you so much for watching Fired Up. I will be back next week, and check out our disclaimer that's going to run at the end here. Have a great week. It's going to be really eventful as Mr. Biden takes office.